Okay, Emmy fans, I'm Marcus James Dixon with Gold Derby, and I'm here with Riley Chow and Zach Laws, and we're here to talk about all of these crazy new Emmy rules, which just came out a couple of, I guess, by the time you watch this, a couple of days ago. The big one is that in series, for comedy series and drama series, there is now a guaranteed 8 nominees. In the past, it's been 7. You would see 8 if there was like a 2% tie, but the 2% rule is gone. And Riley, I'm just going to come to you first. What do you make of all these changes? It's not just in series, it's also in acting, and it's in cinematography and score and everything at the Emmys.
Yeah, it's pretty nutty. I mean, I understand the thinking behind it in that some of these categories are a lot more competitive than others. But I feel like the Emmys just need to take a page from the Oscars book and, have a sense of tradition or consistency. The Oscars, they have 5 nominees per category every single year, even though things are always changing. Whereas the Emmys, these are the rules this year. I'm sure in 2 years from now, it's just going to be, 7 or 8 nominees across all categories. And the numbers are going to change. And yeah, who knows?
Yeah, I think it's funny because I remember, I think it was 5 years ago now, when they first upped the number of series nominees in comedy and drama from 6 to 7. And we were all like, oh my God, this means that some really interesting new shows are finally going to be recognized. And no, it was just they put in more of the same things that they already liked, but just didn't have enough room for previously. And so I think that having this 8 guaranteed nominees in comedy and drama is going to probably lead to that. Although maybe that could open up the possibilities for some interesting choices, which I'm sure we'll talk about later. The thing that gets me is the like weird sliding scale for the acting categories. It is going to seem odd that like we're going to have maybe 6 drama lead actors and actresses and 8 drama supporting actor and actresses. So it really pays off to be a supporting actor if you want to get an Emmy nomination. And then, of course, there's going to be smaller numbers of submissions in limited and TV movies. So we might only have 5 nominees in some of those acting categories when you could easily fill it up with 8. So it seems kind of bizarre all around. But I think like everybody else, when the Emmy ballot comes out, I'm going to be counting up how many submissions are in each category so I can figure out how many people I need to predict to get nominated, because we don't know anymore.
Right. And one thing we should be doing this is because there are apparently 15% more submissions this year. Television is exploding, especially thanks to these streamers like Apple and Netflix and Hulu. It's just there's more and more TV. So the TV Academy is saying, look, this is a way that we can honor even more people. And the submission, there's a graph on Gold Derby if you want to see it. Daniel Montgomery's written this great article. If there are more than 250 submissions in a specific category, there will be 8 nominations. If there are 161 to 250, there will be 7 nominations, and it keeps going down. I'm not going to bore you with all the numbers. But Riley, you looked at last year's numbers, right? So you kind of are determining, or you're guessing how many we'll have based on last year.
Yeah, I mean, the numbers, they do change every year, but let's say in the 2 limited lead categories, in the last 5 years, they've kind of bounced between 30 submissions to 50 submissions per category. So whether it continues to bounce within there or it goes up 15%, it's in that 20 to 80 range where we're only going to get 5 nominees in that category. So you can make a lot of guesses about how many nominees we're going to be getting in all these different categories. And there's really not a lot of consistency. I mean, you mentioned how in like comedy lead actor we'll have 6 nominees, and then comedy supporting actor we'll have 8, but then in comedy guest actor we'll have 7. And it's just, I don't know. Is that really needed?
It is all over the place. And also, I think that there's this assumption that this is going to allow them to honor more TV shows. But as we've seen in the last few years, when they like a show, they vote for it in as many different places as they can. especially in the acting categories. And that's how you get 9 actors nominated from Game of Thrones, as opposed to maybe just 3 or 4 that we would have predicted. That's why you get the categories in comedy filled up with people from Maisel and Fleabag from last year. So I think that this could lead to them just nominating even more people from the same 3 or 4 shows that they already like, as opposed to, I'm going to take something from this show and they take something from that show. This could just lead to more 20 plus nominations for the same 4 or 5 shows.
Do you think one day, it sounds like you're saying you want a quota. You want, once a show has X number of nominations, they can't get more.
I don't necessarily want that. I just wish that they had a little bit more imagination in what they were picking. If somebody is deserving of a nomination, I think that's great. But I wish that they would think outside the box a little bit more. There's a lot of really great television shows that don't get any kind of Emmy recognition, or the Emmy recognition they get is very minimal. And so I would hope that if they have more slots to fill, that would make them check some of those shows out.
Yeah,
but
I want to see them branch out more.
Yeah, exactly. I want to see more nominations for Mindhunter, right? As opposed to just Cameron Britton getting in.
Yeah, I think it actually comes back to 2 things, though. It's, for one thing, we're in this peak TV age, right, where you've got more than 500 scripted shows. So, let's say you like Mindhunter and, I like a different show, Marcus likes a different show, and then all 3 of us watch Game of Thrones, So we each have our personal favorites, but since they're only counting number of votes, not like passion within those votes, then all 3 of us vote for Game of Thrones, and that gets the nomination, one category and then across the board. And then the other thing is that 3 years ago, the Emmys changed to the system where now, if there are supposed to be 5 nominees in a category, you can check off however many contenders you want. You don't have to stick to just 5. So then it becomes kind of a question of like, was this person good enough for a nomination? So then you're going through, again, let's say Game of Thrones, and then you're going through the whole cast, and it's like, oh yeah, they were good. I'm not going to vote against them. So yeah, I liked it before when we had a system that had some measurement of passion, whereas now it really seems to be all about visibility.
Right. At Gold Derby right now, you can predict the 8th nominee for comedy and the 8th nominee for drama. In terms of the other categories, we will add those later once we have seen the ballots, once we know specifically how many to add. And Zach, I'll come to you first. What did you add for your 8th drama and your 8th comedy in your Gold Derby predictions?
Well, I don't want anyone watching this associated with these shows to think that you're in my 8th place. I just, I had the extra room, so I put you in. In comedy, I put in Better Things, Pamela Adlon's series that just finished up its 4th season and has gotten rave reviews for that. I wonder if maybe either that or possibly Insecure, another show that's in its 4th season, has only gotten in for its lead actress before, could benefit from this. And then in my 8th slot in drama, I just went with a show that they had nominated last year, which was Pose, because I don't think they're going to be branching outside the box when it comes to that. They have, I think, more than a dozen returning nominees in this category. I think they're just going to use this as an opportunity to put in as many shows from last year or the year before that they can.
And Riley, what did you add to your predictions?
Yeah, I added Stranger Things, and in comedy, I added the Kaminsky Method. But that means that I'm now predicting Dave, Better Things, and the Kaminsky Method. And it's really hard to justify going with those 3 instead of just like another nomination for Blackish and Modern Family and Silicon Valley. Like those 3, I feel like could all get in, actually, even though they've been gone for years.
I already had Better Things in my picks, but I had taken out Curb Your Enthusiasm a couple weeks ago. But with this new rule change, I put Curb back in my predictions for comedy. And for drama, even though it wasn't my favorite season, Westworld still is an Emmy favorite based on season 2 and exploded with nominations. and a lot of creative technical wins. So I put Westworld in my 8th spot. But I mean, there's a lot of shows that I don't have in my predictions it's just crazy to think. Like Killing Eve, I don't have the winner last year of Best Actress, Jodie Comer. I don't have her either. And it's like, I really kind of like this idea of adding more nominations, and I can't wait till we open the prediction center so I can go in and fiddle with all of the acting choices.
I think what's tricky is that the Emmys, they're not changing the way that the voters are voting. They're only changing the way that things are being counted. We've actually gotten kind of simulations of this over the years when the 2% rule has kicked in. In various categories, we have actually seen 8 nominees before. And whenever that happens, I find that Gold Derby, we're pretty good at predicting the top 6. But then when they add those 2 additional nominees, they tend to be the people that we have in like 13th place and like 32nd place. We are really bad at predicting these bonus nominees, because I find so often it's people like, let's say in Drama Supporting Actor a couple of years ago, they had 6 nominees for a couple of years, and then the next year they had 8, and we saw Mandy Patinkin come back, and he had been snubbed the past 2 years. So you kind of want it to be shows like Mindhunter, right? Shows that haven't broken in, and you're hoping are on the fringes. But I feel like more often what we're actually going to see is people that we had kind of thought the Emmys had forgotten about, but really they were still hovering just below. That's why I'm so concerned about Modern Family, Blackish, Silicon Valley, those kinds of contenders.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's a lot of passion for Mindhunter. There's a lot of passion on the comedy side for Insecure. It'd be great if those shows get in. I'm looking at the Gold Derby odds right now. So in between 8th and 13th, we have Better Things, Run, Modern Family, Insecure, Silicon Valley, which has never missed, and then Space Force. The Great is 14th. And then scrolling down. Sorry, prediction center is very big. Bear with me. Okay. So 8th place for drama is Westworld. And then we have Pose, Killing Eve, Stranger Things, This Is Us, The Outsider, and then Euphoria is 14th. So those are the on the bubble shows that could benefit from this new change.
Yeah, The Outsider is interesting because The Outsider and Mindhunter at this point, I'm actually predicting for both writing and directing nominations, since those categories have both expanded to 8. So logically, I should have, The Outsider in series as well, but I don't know.
I hope so. I mean, we'll see. I mean, again, we know that when they like a show, they just vote for it as many times as they can. So, maybe we'll see an entire category filled up with Succession writing nominations, depending on how many they submit. But I would love that. And certainly the writing and directing categories are usually the places where they honor some of those more fringy type critical darling shows that don't necessarily get into the series race. You mentioned the kind of weirdness of predicting those 7th or 8th place nominees. The other weird thing is that sometimes it'll be somebody from a show that we're predicting, but it's the complete opposite person from who we're predicting. I mean, I think of This Is Us. For years, we were predicting poor Justin Hartley to get nominated in supporting, and then finally they put in Chris Sullivan. And so now so now Justin Hartley is going up to lead, which, hey, maybe with this new expanded field, he'd have a bigger leg up. But there might only be 6 nominees in lead actor and 8 in supporting. He might have had a better chance of getting nominated in supporting than in lead. It's just, it's a crazy thing. I don't know what to say about it.
We should mention that, these submissions are already in, so this year won't be affected by any strategies that may happen. I think next year we'll see strategies where networks will submit as many people as they can to get the number of nominations up. And, the TV Academy will benefit greatly because they make money on these submissions too. So it'll be a win-win. The TV Academy makes money, and then we will see more people nominated at the end.
I mean, that's what awards are all about, right? Everybody gets a trophy. Everybody gets a nomination. Everybody's the best. That seems to be what the message is here.
Yeah, you get an Emmy, and you get an Emmy, and you get an Emmy. Everybody check under your seat like it's the Oprah Winfrey Show, and you can get it.
I will say what's tricky too about predicting these bonus nominees, like let's say in the series category, is last year we had 8 nominees in drama, year before we had 8 nominees in comedy, and we see these shows like Bodyguard and Unbreakable Kimmy Schmidt that only get one other nomination. So if you're predicting something for series and you don't have it anywhere else in your predictions, I mean, that's okay.
Right. Like Big Love.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's another one where we had an extra nominee that year, and it was Big Love.
Did you say Unpredictable Kimmy Schmidt, or was that a?
I hope not.
That was one.
Did I?
One hell of a. I think you did. I misheard that, or you. It's one hell of a
Take a drink.
Freudian slip, right?
One thing people in our forums are angry about, I guess you could say, is, best limited series is probably one of the toughest categories. And I think based on the numbers, we will have 5, correct me if I'm wrong, which when you think about it, like how do you pare that down to 5? I mean, the list is incredible this year. You could pick 10.
You could pick 10
So
most.
it'll hurt. Yeah, it'll hurt some categories and others will be helped.
Yeah, because in drama series, there are so many drama series, but once they're on for, like, let's say 6 seasons, then we kind of stop considering whether they'll get nominated. Whereas everything in limited series is, it's an unknown quantity. So pretty much all the limited series that are in contention are in the prediction center and are being talked about. So that's why it feels like there's more competition, even though there are far fewer submissions.
I think that's why it would be a good idea in at least the series races to set it at a number like 8, including for limited series, because even though there aren't as many submissions in drama and comedy, there's still enough quality in order to justify the added numbers. And especially in the acting categories as well. I mean, it's going to be difficult to pare those down to perhaps maybe 5 or 6 submissions and lead. It's we see every single year that the limited series categories, that's where the highest level of quality usually is. It's I think that there's going to be a lot of egregious snubs this year, as there always are.
It's interesting that we're getting these changes now after all submissions have been made, because usually in February, that's when I'm looking out on the Academy website, seeing when the new rule book is going to be published. Sometimes they come out with, some changes that they're going to be making in December. But this time, everybody's already submitted. I feel like normally when you enter into a game, the rules should be set. They shouldn't be allowed to change it after you've already paid the fees.
And announce it late at night when watching.
Yeah, that was weird.
Yeah.
Well, if there's anything else we could mention on the rules, go ahead and say it now. Otherwise, I wanted to finish by talking about Jimmy Kimmel, what we think about, the Emmy ceremony. We don't know much about it, but he's going to host whatever it is, whether he's, sitting on his couch at home or whether he's going to be on a stage. And what are your thoughts leading into the ceremony? It's still a couple months away, but Zach, I'll come to you first.
I hope that it's at least on stage. We have no idea if this is going to be an Emmys conducted the way that we're conducting the slugfest, or if it's going to be like a minimally attended, socially distanced Emmy ceremony. That might be the reason why they set these quotas for how many people are going to get nominated with submissions, to try to tamp down the number of people who are going to be in the auditorium. But Jimmy Kimmel, whether he's hosting the Emmys or the Oscars, I think he's a terrific host. I feel like they wanted some sense of normalcy in these uncertain times, and he certainly provides that. So I think that no matter what the format is, he's going to do a fine job. And like you said, it's so far in advance. We have no idea what's going to happen in the next 24 hours, let alone the next few months. So I hope that it's as traditional a ceremony as can possibly be done.
Yeah, I'm always excited for the Emmys. And it might be good that they have a host instead of that trend lately where there is no host.
Yeah.
For this kind of ceremony. What I'm actually really curious about is what they do for the creative arts, because I've been looking forward to our live creative arts show. We can't be doing one of these if they're announcing winners at the same time in a similar format.
Yeah, I just hope everything goes back to normal next year. But we'll see what happens. Anyways, thanks everyone for watching. Go update your predictions. It's very important to add those extra nominees as we include them in the prediction center. So thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time.